Anonymous that I didn't have to drink any booze today, and for that I'm eternally grateful. It's good to be here, and it's good to be sober. And it's been a wonderful weekend. It's been just a great lineup of speakers, and unfortunately that's all going to come to a screeching halt about now, you know. And my job is actually to get the room cleared for next year's convention, you know. So just feel free to leave at any time you want, and there's nobody else here. I'll put the lights out and we'll all go home, you know. And it's a privilege to speak at any meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. It's indeed an honour to be asked to speak here this morning. And I expected my wife and my 7-year-old daughter are here with me this weekend, and I was hoping to be down at this meeting this morning, but they're still lying up in bed. I'm hoping maybe we can get this here on a live feed, you know, and just pump it right up to the room there so they can watch what's going on. But I'd like to tell you a little bit about how it was and what happened and how it is today, and hopefully by about 12:30, 1 o'clock, I should wrap it all up, you know. I just seen the blood drain in a newcomer's face there in the back, you know. Is that what they mean by willing to go to any lengths, you know? And there are any non-alcoholics here this morning, you're very welcome to meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. My wife always says, life with an alcoholic is not easy, you know, and my wife's a non-alcoholic, and for those non-alcoholics here this morning, I'll attempt a little bit of feeble humour. There's an alcoholic and his wife sitting in a bar, and the alcoholic's sitting there with a drink in front of him, and he says, you know, I love you, I really, really, really love you. And the wife says, is that you talking, or is that the whiskey talking? He says, no, that's me talking through the whiskey. And that's the sort of an alcoholic I was. I absolutely loved the taste of alcohol. I loved the effect of alcohol. Alcohol did for me what I couldn't do for myself. It filled all the holes. It called all through all the rough edges. I could be everything I thought you wanted me to be. And for an alcoholic with low self-esteem and a chronic people pleaser, it was a magic elixir. It was a potion. It was a panacea for all my problems. And if you'd have told me when I took my first drink where I was going to end up 15 years later, I'd have said, no way, it can't happen. You must be thinking of somebody else. You know, and I know this may come as a shock to some people in this room here this morning, but I'm not from the neighbourhood here originally, you know. And, it's about 25 years now since I left my native Cuba, and, you know. I come just outside of Belfast, and the sort of neighbourhood I grew up in, you didn't drink, you moved. Everybody drank. I might not want to get away, I didn't know. I grew up in an industrial, hard drinking. I knew the effects of alcohol up close and personal. I knew what alcohol could do in a domestic setting. And I said, if you told me where booze was going to take me, I'd have said, you're out of your mind. And I mean, I don't get into that whole thing. Was that I, nature, nurture? Was I an alcoholic? Did I become an alcoholic? Was I born an alcoholic? I know, I'll just tell you this, there's a lot of alcoholism in my family. I mean, just sum it up like this, when I took my first breath, I blew a .28, you know, and I get you some idea where I was coming from, and you could have took me from the delivery room to the AA room, you know, I mean, seriously, and you see that newcomer over in the basket, I'd give him a white chip, you know, and make sure he doesn't swallow it, you know. The only way I can describe alcohol was my life went from black and white to colour like that. My wife drinks, my wife's a non-alcoholic. She drinks what alcohol does to her. I drink what alcohol does for me. Alcohol does something for me that it doesn't do for the normal heavy drinker. You know, before I took a drink, I felt like this, and you looked like that. I take one drink, you look like this, and I feel like that. When alcohol does that for you, you're coming back for more. I don't care what the consequences are. You know, Bill Wilson, in one of his writings, he talks about when he took his first drink, and he said he was at a party, and he was about 6'3" or 6'4", as a gang. They could have used 20 or 30 pounds, and they were shipping out to World War I. He was up in Plattsburgh, New York, and he was at this party, and he felt awkward, and he felt inept, and he felt out of place, and he's got his back up against the wall, and he's been dragged over and introduced to these people, and each time he felt more socially inept. And then somebody put a drink in his hand. And he took that drink and he said all of a sudden he was the centre of attention. It was like people were being brought up and introduced to him. Total role reversal. I understand that. You know, as I said there, it told me where I was going to go with drink. In the Merchant of Venice, they just wanted 1 pound of flesh, but not this disease. This disease will give you a lift, they give me a lift. But when it came time to pay the big, watch out. This disease will take your job, and it'll take your car, and it'll take your wife, and it'll take your shirt off your back. But what it really wants is me 6 feet under. Of all terminal diseases, I believe alcoholism is the most terminal. If I had to stop drinking, drinking would have stopped me. I said I grew up in this neighbourhood, and I took this drink, and I know some guys graduated in this. I came out of the start blocks on flat on my face. I was getting my stomach pumped out at 15 and 16 years of age. Before I was out of my teens, I was a daily drinker. Before I was out of my teens, I knew the value of a morning drink. And I grew up at the height of the troubles over there in Northern Ireland, and it was a crazy time to live in a crazy neighbourhood. My mother and father figured, I'll grow out of it, and they said I wasn't mixed up in that other stuff, and I was a boy bum. I brought a lot of shame and disgrace to the door. I'd be lying drunk in the front garden in the middle of the afternoon, 17, 18 years of age. And my parents, I'm not going to go up here, stand here and point the fingers. They tried everything, but nothing worked till I came to Alcoholics Anonymous. This is the last thing I tried, and the first thing that ever worked. And if you're new this morning, I want to welcome you to the greatest singular event in my life, coming to a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I'm so glad of this program, and this fellowship, and this convention. And what do we do here? We keep these doors open for the still sick and suffering alcoholic. Right now, there's more education about alcoholism, there's more social acceptance about alcoholism, there's more books written about alcoholism. I guarantee you, if I leave this convention right now, I wouldn't have to knock on too many doors this morning, and I'll find somebody drinking themselves to death right now. Totally oblivious to what's going on in here this morning. And my job as an alcoholic, I look at these guys around the walls here, and my job as an alcoholic, a sober man in Alcoholics Anonymous, is to keep that door open for the still sick and stubborn alcoholic, whether he be inside or outside this room. They told me we can't leave a better place than the way you found it, at least leave it the same so the next person can get sober. And that's why I'm so glad we read these steps and read these traditions, the spiritual string that holds this package together. Because for thousands of years there was people like us, couldn't fit in, took drink, couldn't fit in, ran at life with drink, ran away from life with drink. We were society's worst outcasts. They tried every other way to try to get us sober, and nothing worked until these 2 men here. And Bill Wilson had that divine idea. I wonder if I can stop drinking by trying to help another man stop drinking. The turning point in all our lives, past and present. And upon that thought became 2 men, and became 3 and 4. And we're sitting here this morning. And we can trace this moment in time back to that moment in time. Thank God for Alcoholics Anonymous. Before these 2 guys in 1935, it was jails, institutions, and death. And once you've been to the first few a few times, the third one looks like a good option. But because of Bill and Bob, there's a 4th option on the table, where a guy like me can come in on the worst night of his life and be given the grace not to drink. Isn't that the grace of God? Just don't drink for 1 day, Paul. The old guys up in the South Bronx used to say it's an inch by the inch and it's hard by the yard. We do it 1 day at a time, just like this convention said. And they had a motto up in their group: we don't give up on anybody. And I came to Alcoholics Anonymous eventually, and what I see here this morning, and what I've seen here all weekend. What is Alcoholics Anonymous? It's hope in human form. I don't want to see it. I don't want to hear a sermon. I was able to see it up close and personal. I look for the God at the top of the mountains. I look from the seashore. You know where I found him? I found him in the hand of a person putting his hand out and saying, Paul, just don't drink today and it'll be alright. I found God in the bottom of a coffee pot. That's where I found God in Alcoholics Anonymous. And 1 day at a time. It doesn't matter if we did this countdown all the years we have. It's all 1 day at a time. I sat in a car one time, going to a meeting for about 5 hours each direction, with 3 people. Liz B, first African American woman to get sober, period. She's got 59 years in the program. Another guy, Tom Kay, was in the program. He's the only guy that I know was alive when Dr. Bob was still alive in the program. He came in January 1950. He was the wonder boy of Alcoholics Anonymous. He was 23, the youngest guy in AA. and he got drunk 5 years later. He's got 55 years back. And the other guy in the car was Don D, 56 years. Both of those guys were in the old Brooklyn group, which was Bill's original group. But there were the three of these guys and me in the car. And I figured to myself, wow, 5 hours in the car with these guys, I'm going to listen. I'm going to see, like the Wizard of Oz, I'm going to see what's going on behind the curtain, you know, to see what, literally, talking all this. You know what I heard? I heard people that have taken this program over years and decades and simplified it down to one day at a time, to the point where there's not their lives and the program. The program is their lives and their lives is the program. It's a seamless tapestry. You can't tell where one ends and one begins. That's what this program does. And every one of them says, Paul, I said, how do these guys do it? They said, we did it one day at a time. Easy does it. I remember we're sitting on the Cross Bronx, and I mean, it was just gut-wrenching, bumper-to-bumper traffic. And I'm chewing on the steering wheel, you know, and these guys are like, oh, don't worry, we'll get there. And if we don't get there, they'll get somebody else to speak. Don't worry, Alcoholics Anonymous will go on, you know, and it's just a pleasure to be with them. I know them all personally to this day. But that's why I've been looking at all this weekend at these pictures around here. I just find them fascinating. Because we don't have a reverence and an understanding of where we came from. And the importance of where we came from. And our future is bleak indeed. And I just have and what really hit me was how many of these photographs are people who are non-alcoholics, who are great friends to this fellowship program called Alcoholics Anonymous. So when it came my time, there was a place for me to come to. And I walked in here and I found out everything I needed to know. I found out in Alcoholics Anonymous. My name is Paul, and I'm an alcoholic. That tells me who I am, and what I am, and where I am, and what I need to be doing. And if I do that, I'm alright. And when I'm alright, everything around me is alright too. This great program allowed me to come to terms with the past, so I can live in the present for the future, which is the rest of today. Thank God for Alcoholics Anonymous. And as I said, the kid growing up in Northern Ireland, you couldn't have told me that. Booze was doing for me what I couldn't do for myself. And I got to go into the whole ins and outs of it, but my life fell apart in short order. And like a lot of alcoholics, I was blaming people, places, and things. That was the story of my life. Always looking for an outside fix for what's an inside job. I just get to write this and to write that. I'm a working class Catholic on the wrong side of the tracks, growing up with the troubles. I remember I came to Alcoholics Anonymous, the guy said to me something. He says, Paul, you know something? He says, you're a well-balanced guy. I said to myself, finally somebody knows what's going on around here, you know? He says, you got a chip on both shoulders, you know? I hated everything, I hated everybody. I was the guy that always found a needle in the haystack and then sit right on top of it and say, did I tell you? So I was still pointing the finger. I'm a finger pointer. I'm into the blame game. It's no coincidence I'm standing in America here with an Irish accent. I'm a runner, a long distance runner. Somewhere, someday, out there, this over the rainbow type philosophy, I'll get it all lined up. It'll all start to come together. Never came together. I came to the meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. You know, and I remember I was sitting in Northern Ireland. I said to my father one night, I said, listen, sit down there. I got some bad news for you. I said, I'm going to America, don't try and talk me out of it. He says, talk you out of it, I'll help you pack when you're leaving. When you go Columbus, you know, and let me give you some fatherly advice. Turn left to Greenland, you know, and I ended up in a place called Rockaway Beach, New York. Yeah. No matter where you say that name, somebody knows it. Rockaway Beach, New York is sort of a town. There's two types of people in Rockaway Beach. There's those that are in AA and those that should be in AA. You know, it's not really. People like, you know, the old timers who live up around New York, they go, oh yes, Rockaway Beach, the Irish Riviera. You know, and it should have been called Cirrhosis by the Sea. I mean, they had alcoholics like you would. I mean, I'm not kidding you. I mean, but that's me as an alcoholic. I am not. You find out with alcohol, we've got this built-in GPS system. You could have blindfolded me and put me in a sack. I'm going to find a place that drinks as much, if not more, than the one I left. And I got to America and it was going to be different, but the first thing I packed out of the case was me and my alcoholism. Because everywhere I go, there I am. There's a friend of mine in the program, he's got this stickers that he puts in the mirror. I was in his house one day, and in the bathroom, and up in the, it says, "You're looking at the problem." You know, and that's so true. Everywhere I go, there I am. And I came in to make a fresh start in America, and it was business as usual. In fact, it was worse. It's always worse. That's the story of my alcoholism. It got progressively worse. But I'm here to tell you, as far down as you go with drink, you can come back up and maybe then some Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm not going to stand up here like some snake oil salesman and promise you the moon and the stars. There's things that I lost through drinking, they ain't coming back. And there's things that you lost through drinking, they're not coming back either. But because of the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, I was able to live with the consequences of my drinking. Who among us could live with the guilt and the shame and remorse of our drinking if it wasn't for the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous to alleviate that? You know, I wasn't a sociopath. I knew what I walked away from. I knew the bridges I burned. I knew the damage I'd done. But I drank on and I drank on and I drank on. Because if I didn't know what the solution was, I always kept going back to the problem. And it'll be this and it'll be that. And if I knew turn and knew this and I knew the other. And to make matters worse, I got a job as a bartender in this place, Rock. And I use the word bar here in the loosest possible context. This was the sort of bar you got thrown into rather than out of, you know what I'm saying? I mean, this was a real, I mean, this bar had it all. Alcoholics, drug addicts, degenerate gamblers, and that was just the staff, that wasn't even the customers, you know what I'm saying? And a rougher crowd you never did see. I mean, I'll just give you, I mean, it was like, you walked into that bar, it was like walking into like happy hour on the island of Dr. Moreau, you know what I'm saying? It was just like, I mean, I'll just give you a mental picture now and move on. If you want to see a full set of teeth in this bar, you need 32 customers, you know what I'm saying? Male and female, you know? Every now and again, a glamour girl with like 3 teeth would stumble into the place, you know, lost. And upset the whole ecosystem of the bar, you know? Hey, baby, where have you been, you know? This was a crazy, crazy bar. Anything went. I mean, this is all loan shark and drinking. Water found at some level. So does alcohol. I put it in like a glove. And I seen a level of drinking there I hadn't seen before, and I fit it right in. That's the story of my life. Every time I drew a line in the sand. If I ever drink in the morning, I reach that, become comfortable with it, step right over it. I drank in the morning for years. If I ended up in a hospital, I was locked up for a drink, strapped down for a drink, put in restraining sheets, seizures, convulsions, drank on, drank on, drank on, until I came to Alcoholics Anonymous. You see, I thought alcohol was my problem. There's a big difference between alcohol and alcoholism. A drinking problem is solved by not drinking. That's not my problem. My problem is alcoholism, and that's a horse with a different colour. It's physical, it's mental, it's spiritual. It's wrapped up in a body full of sick emotions. Not drinking, as it says, Bill Wilson says, is a start, but it's just a brief start. But by itself, it's not the solution for my problem. I stopped drinking, it's like doing time. The minutes feel like hours, the hours feel like days, and the days feel like weeks. You know, I found out in Alcoholics Anonymous, there's a big difference between giving up and letting go. The key to success in Alcoholics Anonymous is total surrender. Let go absolutely of all your old ideas. One of my old ideas was somewhere, someday, I could take half a dozen drinks and get away with it. That idea had to be smashed, and booze smashed it. It talks in the big book about being beaten into a sense of reasonableness. That happened to me. It talks about being mangled by alcohol. That's me too. If another man had done to me what alcohol had done to me, I'd have killed him with my bare hands. But I signed up for it day after day after day. Because I didn't know about it. I knew all about drinking, but I didn't know one thing about Alcoholics Anonymous. You know, one day, as I said there, Bill Wilson said it gets darkest before the dawn, and that's been my experience. I experienced every form of drinking as a weekend drinker, a daily drinker, morning drinking. But how the drink had done me in the last few years, I became periodic. I'd go on these round-the-clock drunks. And you know the equation, the drunks get longer and the period between them gets shorter. I end up that place. I talk about the jumping off place. I couldn't live life with drink. And I couldn't live life without drinking. The jumping off place, that's where I got. You know, and trying to wring out some of the past out of alcohol. And I reached a place in my drinking. And I used to, at the end of it, borrowing drinking was a memory. I'd drink around the clock maybe 2 or 3 weeks in the apartment, going out around the clock, and then have to be put in a hospital and dried out. I reached a point in my, I think it's the saddest place for me as an alcoholic. When you're sitting there and everything's gone and everybody's gone and you realise that you backed the wrong horse. I'm sitting there. I'm sitting in Rockaway Beach and my mother and father's 3,000 miles away, and I'm saying to myself, I'll never see them again. Bill Wilson sums it up best. He says, quicksand stretched all around him. Boy, can I identify with that. Whichever way I turned, there was nowhere to go. People that just tell your story walking. And that's what we do. Any Al-Anon or non-alcoholics, here's what we do. We just squeeze and squeeze and squeeze till there's nothing left. And people are like, go away and drink. Go away and don't drink. Just go away. That's what I do with an alcoholic. And I'm sitting there, and as Bill Wilson said, there's darkness before the dawn. And that's been my experience. And the woman who's my wife today was sitting there in our office. We're all miracles here this morning. What is a miracle? A miracle is a complete reversal or upheaval of the laws of nature. It's in my nature to be lying drunk somewhere right now, I'm not. Now how did that happen? It happened because of Alcoholics Anonymous. And we all have our stories, how we got here, and here's mine. And I love to hear people when they're given a qualification and they get down near the end, because I know what's coming next. God's coming in the next sentence. And that's what happened to me. God did for me what I couldn't do for myself. This woman was at work one day. And she's just sitting at her desk, and I was gone AWOL again. Nobody had seen me for 2 or 3 weeks. I'm locked up in the apartment going out at hammer and tongs. And she just broke down crying at her desk. And this woman who just started with the company says, why is that woman crying? And she says, oh, I just got this on again, off again boyfriend. Bad drinker. They don't know if he's alive or dead. Might have to break the door down. You don't want to know. And the woman says, you know, my father's got a friend who's in this thing called Alcoholics Anonymous. You want me to get his number? And a number was placed under my door. And the letter says, what I've been hearing since I was 15 years of age. Paul, you're a nice guy, but you drink too much. And I'm sitting in that apartment, and I'm drinking around the clock against my own will. I'm known loneliness that only an alcoholic can know. And I picked up the phone in complete pain, and I called a complete stranger. And that man saved my life. And I'm glad that guy had been in AA for a long, long time. He came in Alcoholics Anonymous in 1961. In the old South Bronx group. His name is Jerry C. He lives over in Daytona Beach now. And he wasn't off in some ivory tower reminiscing how AA is, how the way it used to be and whatever. He was still doing 12-step work. And he came over to my house, the great man, Jerry. And he came over to my house, and basically what he did, he walked onto the battlefield and said, Paul, the war's over. And he brought me to Alcoholics Anonymous, where because of the steps of AA, I was able to acquire peace with honour through an Alcoholics Anonymous. And to give up, and to let go, and to realise the difference, and to surrender to the fact that I can't drink, and accept the fact that's not going to change, and build my life with those two facts through the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, and be free for the first time in my life. I grew up in Northern Ireland, I stayed through the Troubles. We talked about freedom, we sang about freedom, we listened to songs about freedom. I wouldn't have known freedom if I jumped up in the chair next to me. I know freedom from bondage now in Alcoholics Anonymous and this wonderful program. And Jerry brought me to my first meeting. And coming to a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous is so far and above anything else in my life. Because unbeknownst to myself, I was moved from the problem to the solution. And I came in there, I wasn't able to go that first night, but 4 days later, I was strong enough to go to my first meeting. And I came in here, and 2 guys brought me in, Johnny K. and I said Jerry C. and they brought me into a meeting of AA. And I haven't taken a drink from that day to now. We do together what I can't do alone. I need you, and you need me, and that's okay by me. The longest I was ever off drink before I came to AA was 6 weeks, and I wasn't off drink. I was either thinking about a drink, drinking a drink, or coming off a drunk. Booze consumed me 24/7. I'm free today because of you people. Any newcomers here today, you're welcome. We need you. Alcoholics Anonymous, the whole thing is predicated on the next alcoholic. When Bill Wilson lay in Times Hospital up in New York and he had that spiritual vision, he had a vision of a chain of drunks. Not just around New York or the Northeast, around the world, a whole paradigm shift. One alcoholic helping another, chain-like. And that's my 10th step. How strong is my link in the chain? Is it strong to the people that come behind me? Is it strong to the people that are going ahead of me? So if someone comes to me this morning and says, Paul, can I go to that place that they read about, and peace and happiness? No longer regret the past, I want to shut the door on it. Can I go there? Absolutely. Walk this journey with us. We trudge this road together. We walk together with a purpose. There's a purpose to our life today. There's a rhythm. There's a meaning. I'm not sitting in some bar drunk today wondering what it's all about. You know, those conversations 4 o'clock in the morning, what's it all about? You know, unlocking the mysteries of the universe, half drunk, you know. I know what it's about today. I know my name is Paul and I'm an alcoholic. And sobriety is like a backwater pond. We need a newcomer. If you're new here today, we need the newcomer. Sobriety is like a backwater pond. We need fresh water. We don't get fresh water, the pool becomes stagnant. And nothing grows in stagnant water. I die, you die, what's the point? Bill Wilson went looking for Dr. Bob. Then he went looking for this gentleman, Bill D. And the next alcoholic and the next alcoholic. I thought to do the steps of AA was to make me better. That's all right. Working myself and all. Wonderful. But for what reason? What's the purpose? To help another alcoholic. That's when my life caught on fire. That's when my life took on new meaning. When I try to pass this on to somebody else. And that's why I'm so happy that the doors are open here this morning. There's a guy I know in New York, and he was about 1 year sober back in 1961. And him and a bunch of guys didn't like the way they were doing AA in the Bronx, and decided to start their own meeting. And he was picking up literature in the office. He was only 1 year sober. And he was picking up, walking out with this parcel under his arm. And he said, this guy motioned him in. Come here. He said, this guy, big tall guy, sitting with his legs up on the table. He didn't know who he was. It was Bill Wilson. And he said, where are you going? The guy said, oh, we're starting a new group, the Listening Post, up in the Bronx. And Bill Wilson says, he winked at him and says, another open door. That's what this is about, keeping those doors open. Pass it on, the next alcoholic. You know, and that's why that's what I've seen been done here this weekend. So this guy brought me to our first meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. He was a snowbird, up and down to Florida. He introduced me to the right people. But I made my next biggest mistake in Alcoholics Anonymous. I diagnosed myself as having a drinking problem rather than alcoholism. And I figured I tried to stop drinking by myself. If nobody puts the plug in the jug, and nobody moves, we'll be alright. We're all in this together. And I found out that alcohol is only mentioned in the first half of the first step. I'm in here because I can't live out there. My problem's not in here, my problem's out there the other 23 hours of the day. With these emotions, alcoholism, and super sensitive, and a chronic people pleaser, and all this teenage stuff running around in a grown man's body. I need this program to help me operate the other 23 hours of the day. And I'm an Alcoholics Anonymous thinking, I just don't drink and everything will be alright. And some of the worst times in my life was the first 2.5 years in Alcoholics Anonymous. Because I was unwilling or unable to put those principles in my life. I just figured the steps, you know, Irish, stoic, stuff everything, don't tell nobody nothing. That was my code of conduct. I was sitting in Alcoholics Anonymous with barroom mentality. And this code of behaviour that I had might have worked in the bar, but it wasn't flying too far in here. It told me, Paul, you got to march to the beat of a different drum in here. And I fought this program and I resisted it. The steps all just seemed very touchy and feely and very warm and fuzzy. And I figured if I do the steps, the next thing I'll be wearing flip-flops in the winter time, you know, and have my wind chimes hanging up in the house and join Oprah's book club. And where's it all going to end, you know? And I'm telling you, but if you're new here this morning and you figure how do I work this program, I don't keep it as simple as I can. We have a symbol in Alcoholics Anonymous. Triangle instead of circle. And there's three parts to it. Unity, service, and recovery. I believe you can work all three parts of that triangle in your first meeting. Unity, I need this. We do together what I can't do alone. I need meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous. Many meetings make it easy, few make it hard, none make it impossible. Left to my own devices, I will drink again. And I need to come here. Service, the guy right here, says the highest pay grade in Alcoholics Anonymous is serving. I heard you sing that song up in New York, I never forgot it. I gotta give, and I gotta give, and I gotta give, because I'm self-centered in the extreme, driven by 100 forms of it. Bill Wilson said above, in his early sobriety, he was living above the 23rd Street Clubhouse in New York. His furniture was in storage. He had a few years in the program. He was feeling sorry for himself. The two guys you gotta watch for in AA, the great I am and the poor little me. He was wrapped up in self-pity. And he said he was sitting there, and another gentleman who's pictured up there, Father Ed Darling, came to visit him. And Bill was sitting there feeling sorry for himself. And Father Ed Darling says, they just got talking, he said, what's your... He says, you know, when I started this, I'm one of the co-founders. And these guys are coming in, their lives are going on ahead, they're making great inroads back into life. I'm one of the co-founders, my furniture's in storage. My wife's working in the department store. When's my ship going to come in? And Father Ed Darling said to him, listen man, you suffer from something that's saintly almost, divine dissatisfaction. Because you got to keep giving, and you got to keep giving, and you got to keep giving. But by doing that, you'll be brought to a place that you never thought existed. And Father Ed became Bill's spiritual sponsor for the next number of years. And that's what I have to do, because I'm self-centered in the extreme. My Holy Trinity is me, me, me. And I come in here, as I said there, and I fought this program. I'm telling you, man, you can fool them at 7:30 at night, but you're not fooling them by 3:30 in the morning. I walk around this program and said those three parts of the triangle, unity, service, and recovery. I had the unity, I was going to meetings. I was in service. I remember saying the guy making more coffee than Juan Valdez. Are you kidding me? Service? But I wouldn't do the third part of the triangle. I'm here to tell you, you can stay dry in two parts of the triangle. You might even stay dry in one part of the triangle. But you're only going to get sober in all three parts. And that's as true today as the first day I walked in here. And that's why I got to tell myself, but I'm talking about all three parts of the triangle. I'm talking in the past tense. I used to go to meetings. I used to make coffee. I used to bring guys to the program. It's got to be in the present tense. I got to be doing this stuff. I got to get my card punched on a daily basis. And I fought this program, as I said to you, and I'm 2.5 years. I'm here to tell you, I came into Alcoholics Anonymous. I didn't know a whole lot of money. 2.5 years into AA, I was thousands upon thousands of dollars in debt. I know why today. I was still trying to fill the hole in my soul with stuff. There's not enough stuff out there to fill the hole in my soul. I would take a cruise or something, charge it to my credit card. I'd feel good for a couple of days when I get back. But I always end up back at the same equation, me on me. I can't get me off of me. And I'm on me like a broken record 24/7. Just shackled to self. Because I won't work the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm not saying the 12 steps are the panacea for every problem, but they brought me to a point in recovery where I could decide what was my work, what was God's work, and if I needed outside help. And if you need outside help, there's nothing wrong with that. Let the doctors be the doctors. And when you're out of options in AA, you're out of options. I'm here to tell you, don't paint yourself into a corner. I get it painful. I've been the jumping off place twice in my life. Once with drink and once without drink. Different type of pain, but pain nonetheless. And a guy said to me, Paul, he said, you know, I'm here because of a guy who saved my life. A guy came up there, and I'm making all the right noises. When it came to my turn to share the meeting, come out with some little sound bite that I heard somebody else say 2 nights previous. And keep me by the arm's length. And this guy came over to me, and I used to dread these people, but I'm glad AA has them. The dreaded 12-step inspector. I usually sidle up to the coffee pot, you know. How you doing, Paul? I'm doing great. Off the teeth, right? Doing wonderful. You got a sponsor? Yeah. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 3, step 2, step 1, step 1. The guy said to me, Paul, you know something? I said, I have news for you. Don't take this personal. But he says, you're dying. And you're dying in AA. And the sad news is the help's on the wall. He says, you're like a starving man in a spiritual banquet. There's all this food on offer, and you're over in the corner living on bread and water, keeping it by arm's length. He says, people die in AA. I know you had a spiritual awakening that day, but people have had spiritual awakenings and died drunk after because they won't work the program. I don't do the steps because they're nice. I did the steps because I realized they were necessary for recovery. If I want to get physically and mentally and spiritually and emotionally rehabilitated, I must work this program. I know of no other way. And I've tried every other way of staying sober. The 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous was the last thing I tried and the first thing that ever worked. And this guy said to me, and I got a sponsor, and I started to move through those steps. And I fought this program for so long, but I'm an alcoholic. I could complicate a brown paper bag, left to my own devices, and I heard all this stuff. And I know the 12-step program, all 12 steps are important, but I bought into this 4th step, and I hear this 4th step, and I hear this 4th step, and I hear this 4th step. I said to myself, I fought this 4th step for so long, and then finally I said to myself, they want a 4th step from me? I'm going to do the best 4th step that anybody's ever done in the history of Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm going to do a 4th step where they're going to be standing in the coffee pot going, did you hear about this 4th step? I heard it was unbelievable. I laughed, I cried, I laughed, 2 thumbs way up, you know. I want a newcomer to come and go, are you the guy that wrote that 4th step that everybody's talking about? Well, yes I am, and yes I did. And it really didn't take that long either. So I set to work, and I've been told, you know, the guy said to me, Paul, listen. The guy was helping me, he said, Paul, listen. It's like driving to Florida. The big book of Alcoholics Anonymous will give you explicit directions. You cannot go wrong. You follow the directions. With I-95, no problem. The 12 and 12, think of it as a spiritual guidebook. It'll tell you what you might see along the way. Those 2 books, you'll be fine. I said to myself, yeah, but he's been sober since 1961. I got modern defects of character, you know what I'm saying? I ended the word of the 4th step guide. I had 4th step guides, you've got to paper the walls in here with them. 4th step guides for men, 4th step guides for Irish men who live just outside of Belfast. I mean, really. I turned my apartment into like a spiritual nerve center, you know. I'm an alcoholic. I get like flip charts and flow charts and magic markers for different resentments and different colours and, you know, pots of coffee going. The wheels are spinning but nothing's happening, you know. And I swapped the phone off my hook. I lived on the 1st floor. My sponsors are shouting up, your phone's off the hook. What? Is that 4th step finished? Is that 4th step finished yet, you know? And yeah, I'm working on it. He goes, you're not answering your phone. How am I going to know it's finished? Is it going to be like when they elected a new pope, there'll be like a puff of white smoke coming out? A puff of white smoke coming out of your apartment. And the 4th step is done. And there was peace throughout the land, you know? And I lived overlooking the ocean. I said to myself, I had another spiritual awakening. I said, what am I sitting here in the apartment? I should be down on the boardwalk, looking at that special place where the sea meets the sky, drawing inspiration from that. So I slimmed down the operation and took it down to the boardwalk, you know. I'm sitting there with my legal pad, my big blank legal pad, you know. Trying to draw the columns really straight. I'm like stopping strangers. Excuse me, do these columns look perpendicular? They're like, wow, they're wonderful. Who's your sponsor? Frank Lloyd Wright? I mean, and then you hear a guy, Frank H. out the West Coast. And he stands up on a podium one night. He says, the 4th step takes as long as it takes in one night. I took immediate resentment against him. One night? Maybe for you. I've been living on the edge for years. I I later found out sitting in your underwear drinking around the clock is not living on the edge, you know, but there's no one-trick ponies in Alcoholics Anonymous. If you're new here this morning, it's a 12-step program. What's the 12 steps do? It's designed to bring me from a place of powerlessness. I got a body that won't let me drink and a mind that won't let me stop. I'm powerless over alcohol. My life's unmanageable, drunk or sober, but I'm running, and I like to run it a lot. I remember sitting down one time and thinking to myself in AA, I said, every time I get in a jackpot, it's my fingerprints are at the scene of the crime. Why? And I remember trying to think, why do I keep doing this? And the best I come up with, I like to run the show. And this key is, I like to drive the bus. And I'll be sitting in the back of the bus, and I'll turn it all over. And then slowly but surely, I'll move up the bus. And then I'll push go out of the driver's seat. And then I'll start driving the bus. And then we'll head for a cliff. Oh, no, you can drive now, and I'll run to the back of the bus again. And this happens over and over and over. And I've got to keep relearning these lessons. It's a daily reprieve based upon my spiritual condition. I got to get free one day at a time. I said these 12 steps, no one more important than the other. But as I said earlier, they brought me to a point of recovery from powerlessness to a place, not where I'm powerful, but a place where I have access to power. 24/7 and unlimited supply. And as I said earlier on, where this self-centered alcoholic life really took off, is when I turned around and tried to help another man. We have the analogy in the big book. We are survivors from the sinking ship. And do we row off into the sunset, patting each other? No, we go back and look for more survivors and help them into the boat. Another one, that's been a great joy in my life, it says to watch a fellowship group around you. And I've sponsored guys in the program because it keeps me out of me. I remember lying one time, and I love Christmas. My favourite time of the year. I gotta watch myself, I get all jazzed up, and I go to the Nutcracker and go to the Radio City and then into Manhattan and all the shops and whatnot. And the 2nd of January, I'm like, oh, depressed, you know. And I'm lying there after Christmas, you know, feeling sorry for myself, a bit of self-pity. And this guy had asked me to help a few months earlier. This is why you gotta help others. They keep me out of me. And this guy called me out of the blue. He said, listen, I was given your number and I thought I was told you might be able to help me. I had 10 years in the program, losing my eyesight. Got a big resentment against God, and I got drunk. I can't get back. I'm in and out and in and out. Can you help me? I said, I'll help you the way I help anybody else. I tried to help him. Sure enough, he couldn't get 30 days together. We tried this and tried that. Bring him through the steps. Kept getting drunk, kept resentment against God, resentment against AA. I'm lying there one night, the phone rings. You think twice about going back out that door, guys, if you're new here. The phone rings. I hear this groggy voice, Paul. I said, yes, I realised who it was right away. His name's Tommy. I said, Tommy, what is it? He said, I just came out of a blackout. I'm in Elmhurst Hospital in Queens, and my left arm is gone. I can't believe it. I just woke up. I just come out of anaesthesia. I don't remember my left arm. I said to Tommy, I'm coming right over. I jumped in the car and I drove to Elmhurst Hospital. At the sign for his clothes. What had happened? He got drunk and fell in front of the subway. He was lying drunk on the tracks. The subway ran over him. Took his left arm off. And it was closed. And you could see where the train went over his jacket. And the skin graft later on worked pretty good because the train, the heat of the thing, actually cauterized the wound. And he's lying there. I got him in the bed. He's lying there all whatever. And he says, Paul, do you think I can stop drinking now? I'm here to tell you, he drank after that. He's got 2 years back now. That's working with others. Me sitting there feeling sorry for myself. Bill Wilson, when all else fails, working with another alcoholic will work. You know, and it's been a great blessing in my life. And Alcoholics Anonymous has taken this world hater, this people hater, this stop the world I want to get off, and brought me through those steps. And the steps they're a process, they're not a journey. This is not an event here. I got to keep signing up for it on a daily basis. And I didn't realize I'm sitting in Alcoholics Anonymous with these resentments. I had 2 hefty bags full of garbage. and I'm defending it, and I'm justifying it, and I'm rationalising. If you had the life I had, you would have drank too. I had resentments, and I didn't realise that these resentments, they have no IQ. They don't realise that some of the stuff I was resenting happened 25 years and 3,000 miles away. I'm a Catholic, and during the Troubles we were burned out of our house in the height of the Troubles. And I'm sitting in bars 25 years later, saying, because I was only a young child at the time, and I felt so inept and I couldn't do anything. I'm thinking, sitting in bars, getting drunk 20 years later, saying, I wish those guys with the masks would come to the door now, and I'm reliving and I'm replaying it. My body doesn't know this happened 25 years ago. I'm experiencing like it's happening right now. The sickness and all the toxicity that releases into your body when you're living an unspiritual life like that. And the guy said to me, Paul, you got to put that stuff down on paper. I said, I don't even know who these guys are. They're wearing masks. Doesn't matter. Get down on your knees and forgive them. I get down on my knees and I forgive them because I want to be free. I want to be free from the one guy I can never get free from, which is me. I want to start to live in the one place I never lived, which is today. I was always initially full of guilt, shame and remorse. Or as in tomorrow, full of fear. I was a fearful person, and a fearful person will always find something you'll be afraid of. There's a boogeyman behind every tree. You know, I said there, the great blessing was to put the... And I've seen... That's why I love Alcoholics Anonymous. I see a sermon rather than hear one. I was in Northern Ireland and racked, as I say, with these resentments. And I see the guy do something in Alcoholics Anonymous I couldn't believe it. I know this guy for years. We drank together. And I'm back home. Just before I got into the steps, about 2 years, thinking I'm doing all right. Created a jackpot in New York, ran back to Ireland for a holiday. Hooked up with this guy. We used to drink together. I realised he was in sobriety. His name's Paddy. We started going to meetings together. I can't believe you're sober. He was sober longer than me. Now, many, many years before, at a house party, this guy, Pat, was sitting at a house party and the guy had some problem with him. And the guy went out and got a bread knife out of the drawer and come up behind him and stuck the bread knife right in his neck, right to the hilt. He was given the last strikes 3 times. Even years later, he can only lift his arm this high, can't turn his head around. Almost died. Got sober years later. I'm sober. We're sitting in a meeting one night in a small town in Northern Ireland on a winter's night. And the door opens. And the guy who did this went to jail for many years. Many years have passed. This is a small provincial town in a very insular neighbourhood. And the door opens. Who walks in? The guy that stuck the knife in his neck. And the whole meeting, you know the way there's that hum before a meeting starts while he's talking? The meeting fell silent. Everybody knew the story. Everybody realised the significance of what had just happened. And my friend Paddy got up and he walked over. And he put his arms around him. And he called him by his first name. And he welcomed him to Alcoholics Anonymous. And he set him down, went over and got him a cup of coffee or a cup of tea and put it in his hand. And says, "Good to see you, Barry. Keep coming back." I drove home with Paddy after the meeting. I said, "Paddy, if I didn't see it, I wouldn't have believed it." He said, "If I had to forgive the man that almost took my life to get free in Alcoholics Anonymous, and that's the price I had to pay to be free in AA, well then I'm willing to pay it." And I'll tell you that the story doesn't end well. That guy didn't get sober, and he died in an alcoholic seizure. But my friend Paddy's still sober. And that's what we have to do here. To freely give what was freely given to me. I don't know who's going to be sitting next to me in the lifeboat. That's not my business. But I got to help them. I got to give this away, just like these 2 men right here. As I said there, I have a life today beyond my wildest dreams. I came into Alcoholics Anonymous at 30 years of age. We were sitting here last night, I didn't even have a high school diploma. I was working as a bartender. And all this shame and disgrace and self-loathing, never felt good enough. I was kicked out of school at 15. Didn't have guidance counsellors back then. I showed up drunk. Just go away. Don't bother us. I never showed up at school again. And I'm an Alcoholics Anonymous, and my sponsor says to me, "Paul, why don't you go back to..." I said, "I can't go back to school." He said, "What do you mean you can't go back to school?" Right away, I got the negative blocks up. He says, "How do we do things around here, Paul? We do them one day at a time. Or what if I fail the class? Well, you'll take another one. And you'll take another one. And I signed up for school, and I got a degree, and I got another degree. I got 2 graduate degrees. I bartended the last 5 years drinking. I bartended the first 12 years in AA. I bartended my way through school. I bartended at night and went to school during the day. It wasn't easy. It didn't come easy. But these people give me the ability to do that. Alcoholics Anonymous give me the ability to take on long-term goals and chip away at them one day at a time. That's what AA gives you. No quick fixes around here. I was always looking for a quick fix. That's why I loved alcohol. I hadn't even swallowed the stuff. I was somebody else, someplace else. It was a magic elixir. Even with the resentments, all the stuff would come up. I would drink some whiskey, it all would go down. All the stuff would come up, push it back down. Same reason I did the steps. Now I'm in AA, I can't use the booze. All the stuff's coming up. I had to take care of it through the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. So I went back to school. I stayed there, and unbelievable. I'm a teacher today. And when I first started teaching, I wanted to teach the brightest of the brightest. I did that for a while. Then I got the opportunity to work in special education. And I go to people's houses, like children who can't get to school. You talk about, I think, God knows. I am just so shackled to self. I need to be giving all the time. I can drop in myself at a moment's notice. My wife catches me all the time. She'll be telling me some problem that she was going through, and I'll glaze over. And she'll say, "You're thinking how this is affecting you, aren't you?" I go, "No, I'm not, but I am." I remember saying to my sponsor, "I think it's DNA." He goes, "No, you would think it's DNA. It's so deeply rooted in you, but it's not DNA. It has to be pulled out, root and branch." I go to these kids' houses. I mean, I see some terrible, terrible cases. I go to these kids' houses, and I go in there with my Mickey Mouse problems. And I go to some kid there that's on a feeding tube, or doesn't have an esophagus, or in a wheelchair, and they're so happy to learn, they're full of the joy of life. I said, "Oh my God, how can I be so self-centered?" And that's what this program allowed me to do, to give 24/7. It allowed me to grow up. I grew up in Alcoholics Anonymous. I came here, I was 30 years of age. I was a child in a mom's body. You know? And so the solutions in here in Alcoholics Anonymous. And even getting married, that woman who's my wife today. Being married meant being dependable, and being accountable, and being responsible. I said to my sponsor, "I am none of those things." He says, "No, you are none of those things when you're an active alcoholic. You're a sober man in Alcoholics Anonymous today. You can show up for life no matter what, one day at a time, with this program." And we got married, and about 12 years sober, and my wife, we got pregnant, my wife got pregnant, and we have a daughter who's with us this weekend. She's 7 years of age now. I tell you, before I came to Alcoholics Anonymous, I knew the price of everything and the value of nothing. I know things of real value here in Alcoholics Anonymous. The things that AA has given me. Just a life. People say we're living 2 lives in 1 lifetime. Unbelievable. I came into AA, I'm glad they didn't have a clipboard at the first meeting. I would have checked the box for not drinking, and I would have settled for that. But there's so much more than not drinking on offer here. As I said, not drinking is only the first half of the first step. The rest of those steps help me to do what I couldn't do, and that's live out there in God's world 24/7, under His conditions rather than my demands. I'm here to tell you, if you're new here at Alcoholics Anonymous, there's life after booze. I'm here to tell you there's a miracle here with your name on it. Nobody can take it from you, and nobody can take it for you. Come up here and claim your prize. And in fact, don't even claim it. We'll give it to you, because we have to give it to you to stay sober ourselves. You know? And got our daughter here this weekend, and just, I mean, things of great value. We're over there in Disney World, and to see my 7-year-old daughter running around dressed up as Tinkerbell. I'm serious. And just watching her enjoying everything. I tell you, my friends, I love flat whiskey, and I came this close, but it wasn't the real deal. The closest thing to spiritual awakening actually wasn't when I was drinking booze. It looked like the real deal, it felt like the real deal, but it wasn't the real deal. It was counterfeit, it was phony, it was bogus. The real deal is here in Alcoholics Anonymous. When I said you come in here in the worst thing of your life, and you're given the grace to drink, not to drink, and you grow along spiritual lines to this program. As I said, there are these guys here, around the walls here, the people that have been here before us. And I want to hear leave Alcoholics Anonymous intact for the next suffering alcoholic. Because I said somewhere someday this morning, there's somebody drinking themselves to death. Oblivious to what's going on here this morning. And the power that we have, one alcoholic working with another. I'll end on a story. In 1946, there was no Alcoholics Anonymous in Ireland. And if there's ever a country that needed AA, I believe it was Ireland. Ireland is the first country in Europe that AA went to. And there was a guy who was home. He was originally from Ireland. Lived his working life in Philadelphia. Got sober. He had 2 years of sobriety. He went home to Ireland on a vacation. He realized there's no AA. He sent a letter to the General Service Office, and they said, why don't you start a meeting? They sent what's called a startup package. And he stayed in Ireland to try and get a meeting started. With only 2 years sobriety himself. His name was Connor F. And he went around, he put ads in newspapers and walked around, and a bit like Bill Wilson a decade or so earlier, was getting nowhere. And finally, he went to a hospital. He seen this doctor who was dragging out alcoholics. And the doctor said, you know what, I've been working with drunks and I haven't even heard of this thing called Alcoholics Anonymous. What is it? And the guy told him what it was. And he said, well listen, I'll tell you what. We've got a guy in here who's been detoxed 30 or 40 times. Sometimes he's drunk on the way home from the hospital. If you make any impact on him, I'll give you the full support of the hospital. So Connor F went down to the guy in the bed. The guy's name was Richard P. A dead man walking. And Connor did what I tried to do here this morning. He shared experience, strength, and hope. Harry drank, Harry got sober, and Harry, the man in the bed, might get sober. And Richard Percival had been talked to, talked at, but he knew this was different. This was somebody talking his language. One alcoholic talking to another. Like Dr. Bob said in his last message, don't get too smug or complacent to remember the guy coming behind you. And Connor F talked to this guy, and Richard P got up out of his bed and walked out of that hospital and never took another drink the day he died in 1973. And those two men started their first meeting in Dublin. That's the power that one alcoholic has working with another. And we have to do this program. I'm spiritually mandated to work these steps. That guy, Jerry C, that I talked about in Daytona Beach, tells a great story. He got sober in 1961. In 1967, he was sitting, wouldn't work the program, wouldn't do a complete fourth step, was carrying something around as we do, the worst secret, I can't tell anybody this. And he sat across the table from Bill Wilson. He knew Bill, he worked in around the office, and he knew Bill pretty good. Didn't know intimately, but knew him well enough to go into his office. He was sitting talking across the table to Bill W. And Bill did what apparently he did in those situations. He used the collective experience of Alcoholics Anonymous. He said, it's been our experience, Jerry, if you try to carry the load alone, you pay a heavy price. That's been Alcoholics Anonymous experience. I encourage you to work through the rest of the steps and get rid of whatever that is that you're carrying around. And Jerry left his office, didn't take his advice, got drunk a week later, put 3 drunks together. The good news is he came back in 67 and has been sober ever since. But he tells a story, not to drop names, he tells a story to say this. You can be sitting across from the co-founder, sharing one-on-one, but if you do not do what's required around here, you run the risk of drinking again. It's the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, working through us people, this spiritual conduit that gets people sober. Sooner or later, I had to participate in my own miracle. I had to step up and participate in my own recovery. What a program. To freely give what was freely given to me. And it's been a pleasure to be here this weekend. It's been an honour. I hope you all have it. I mean, think about it. Look at the wonderful weekend we've had here. People talk about, oh, the program is so hard. You know what's hard? Waking up in the morning and needing a drink so bad that you're jumping out of your skin. That's hard. Those are difficult terms. Or putting your hands in your pockets and no money. You know that great iconic scene, and they had showed the movies here this weekend, and the Lost Weekend, and Ray Milan sitting on the couch, and he wakes up, and he needs a drink so bad, he knows he has a second bottle, but he doesn't know where it is. Did I drink it? Did I not drink it? And he looks up, and it's in the lampshade. And Billy Wilder, the director, wasn't an alcoholic, but he knew about imagery. And the bottle casts a shadow across the whole ceiling. Alcohol overshadowed me. And he's like, another drink. Those are hard terms. Coming here this weekend and spending time with my brother and sister alcoholics, this is the easier, softer way. Thank God for Alcoholics Anonymous, that these people kept these doors open so that this guy here gets sober one day at a time. I want to end on a few words from a place of my birth. Tough act to follow. I mean, not acapella singing last night, you know what I mean? Like this. May the road rise up to meet you. May the wind be ever at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face and the rain fall softly in your fields. And until we meet again, may God hold you in the hollow of his hand. Thank you. God bless you.